Influencers in China can make a ton of money off Chinese patriotism, but it's a shifty and perilous business. Welcome to China Uncensored, I'm Chris Chappell. Chinese President Xi Jinping is a big fan of patriotism. According to him, love of our country, the feeling of devotion, and sense of our attachment to our motherland is a duty and responsibility of every Chinese. In fact, patriotism in Xi's China is so important, they made a patriotic education law. Oh yes, look at these kids loving the Communist Party as mandated by law. The law is meant to do things like unify thoughts and gather the strength of the people for the great cause of building a strong country. I wonder what they're gathering their strength for.
The Chinese army showed this short video of simulated attacks on Taiwan, with missiles fired from land, sea, and air into the island's territory.
But like most things in communist China, even patriotism comes with some serious risks. Lately, China has seen the rise of a new type of hyper-patriotic influencer called Ziganwu. They can make good money posting videos on Xigua, which is basically China's YouTube. Chinese social media accounts with more than 1 million followers can make around a few $100,000 a year in China. They can also get endorsements and partnerships with brands that want to align themselves with these mandatory patriotic sentiments. Oh yes, patriotism! But in China, being a patriotic influencer can just as easily lead to misfortune. For example, in January, one of these influencers went on the prowl for signs that people weren't being as patriotic as the law demanded. And he found it. Look at this mall, covered in red circle stickers that say Happy 2024 and wished shoppers a refreshing and blooming New Year. It seemed innocent, but this blogger knew better. He claimed they were not actually New Year's decorations, but were in fact nationalistic Japanese symbols with the red circles representing the red sun in the Japanese flag. Nailed it. The influencer scolded the management at the mall, saying, "This is Nanjing, not Tokyo. Why are you putting up junk like this?" The police even got involved, and they sided with the influencer. They had the New Year's decorations taken down before issuing the staff at the mall with a stark warning. But then the backlash began. Other Chinese social media users began mocking him, posting images of all the red circular objects that would have to be taken down based on this guy's video, such as Huawei's logo, red traffic lights, sunrises, and even posters of Mao Zedong with a rising sun in the background. Eventually, Chinese state media got involved too, criticizing the vlogger for his role in the incident and calling his actions detrimental to individuals, companies, and society as a whole. The influencer in Nanjing was not just accused of going too far though, but also of trying to use patriotism to turn a profit. Yeah, that does sound pretty anti-communist, doesn't it? Rebuking the blogger, Chinese state-run media CCTV made it clear that patriotism is not a business. And so, like Icarus, this patriotic vlogger flew too close to the sun and ended up burned. And he's not the only one. In 2022, a jingoist blogger called Sima Nan, who has previously referred to America as a rotten, crime-ridden place, had his social media accounts across Chinese platforms blocked after he ended up in a feud with Chinese tech firm Lenovo. During the clash, it was revealed that Sima owns a house in California, despite his overt anti-Americanism. Also in 2022, another jingoist, Kong Qingdong, was banned on Weibo for undisclosed reasons. This is not the first time for Kong, who was also temporarily banned in 2012 after he sparked a public outcry when he referred to Hong Kongers as dogs and bastards. And this is the risk of a communist system. What is politically correct changes, often so fast that people can't keep up. For example, leading up to November's Biden-Xi meeting at APEC, the one where San Francisco revealed it could actually clean up the town, the The Chinese Communist Party was desperate to stabilize its relationship with the US because of ongoing economic problems. Both Chinese media and Chinese patriotic figures suddenly dialed down their anti-US rhetoric. My favorite state-run media, the Global Times, had said in an editorial in October that the US was stained with the blood of innocent civilians in Gaza. But then suddenly, on the day of the meeting between Biden and Xi in November, the outlet ran this editorial calling for greater cooperation between China and the US. Meanwhile, Hu Xijin, who has previously called for Chinese airstrikes on Taiwan to eliminate US troops on the island, wrote about the need for expanded China-US cooperation. And the America is a rotten, crime-ridden place Sima Nan suddenly claimed that he was trying to promote friendly Sino-American relations. But what happens when a Chinese influencer accidentally crosses a line? That's what happened to Li Jiaqi, an immensely popular influencer. He was so popular, state-run media even used him for promotions.
然后呢，同时也祝 CGTN 的观众朋友们2020新年快乐。
But in a June 2022 live stream, he showed this tank-shaped ice cream cake. That was right around the anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre. Now, the CCP has done such a good job covering up the massacre, many young people in China don't even know it happened. It was probably a complete coincidence that Li had an ice cream cake tank on the anniversary of Tank Man. But censors immediately shut down the stream and he was gone. But the CCP crackdown had a bit of a Streisand effect. Many of his equally young viewers were confused, so they began asking questions about the tank reference and began to look for answers. One of them credited Li's disappearance for generating awareness about hidden pages of Chinese history, saying, "Thanks to Li, I now get to know that history." But sometimes the patriotic influencers end up causing a lot of trouble for the CCP. Back in 2012, there was another flare-up of tensions between China and Japan over a territorial dispute over these islands. The situation escalated and anti-Japanese protests began to break out across urban China. Protests in China are usually swiftly broken up by the Chinese authorities, but for this one, the authorities in several Chinese cities did not intervene. After all, these are patriotic protests. Awesome, right? What could go wrong?
At first glance, this might look like an anti-police protest. But these Chinese demonstrators in Shenzhen aren't attacking the vehicle because it's a police car, but because it was made in Japan.
Wow, I guess unrestrained nationalism can backfire. Who would have guessed? By the time police did intervene and restore order, Japanese stores, companies, and restaurants had been vandalized and China-Japan relations severely bruised. So the party had a dilemma: how to stop patriotic protests without criticizing the patriotic fervor they fostered. Here's what they did. The state-run People's Daily wrote in an editorial that it did not condone violence, but that the protests were a sign of the Chinese people's patriotism. And that's good, because when your business looks like this, it helps to be reminded of the patriotic spirit with which it was carried out. When communism takes over a country, it destroys what came before and fills in the void with this style of insane patriotism. And there's a video I want to show you about that. But unlike these Chinese influencers, China Uncensored doesn't make money by licking at the CCP's boots. They've even called the show disgraceful anti-China garbage. That's why I need your support, because I'm not getting all that fat pro-China sponsorship. All it takes is $1 or more an episode on patreon.com/China Uncensored. I make about 16 episodes a month, but if that's too much for you, you could set a monthly limit. So you could ensure I can keep uncensoring China for even $1 a month. And as a thank you to everyone who gives on Patreon, I'll answer one of your questions at the end of these episodes. And today's question comes from brand new patron CBD Gideon. If the CCP collapses, I wonder what government or type of government will take its place. Great question, CBD Gideon. So a weird thing about China today is that it has a fully functional government. The same bureaucracy China has basically had forever. The problem is, the CCP acts like a parasite that sits on top of that government, controlling it at every level. If that parasite was gone, China might still have a perfectly functioning government. I've even heard some interesting talk about China becoming a Confucian-style democracy, but talking about that might be its own episode. Let me know in the comments below if you'd like me to make that. So, thanks for your question, and thanks for joining my Patreon, CBD Gideon. You too can join by clicking on that orange button, and here's that video I wanted to show you. It's about why you shouldn't, as Marx said, overthrow all pre-existing social conditions, because that's insane. A criticism YouTube might not want to hear, so I'm hiding it in gaming content on my new show, Deep Thoughts While Gaming. Click here and let me know what you think. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.